Welcome to my video series on LGBTQ+ issues in primary schools. My name is Joanna Brett. I'm a trainee clinical psychologist for First Steps, a CAMHS service in Hackney. Today's video is the 6th in the series, and it's called Getting Comfortable with LGBTQ Terminology. Before we start, there are lots of different words and terms used by people in the LGBTQ community to describe themselves. It can be a lot to remember. If you feel lost with all the terminology, it can make you feel more anxious about talking about LGBTQ issues. So this video is aimed at getting you a little more comfortable with some of the most common terms people use, what they are and what they mean. But before we start, there are some things to bear in mind. This video is an introduction only, and that's because these terms are always changing. As people in the LGBTQ community have more opportunities to come together, to talk about their experiences and their place in the world, they sometimes come up with new words to give to their experiences, or the meaning of an established term might slowly shift over time. This means that even if two people use the same word, it may have different meanings to each of them. It means that maybe one person might find different terms a good fit for them at different times in their life. Or that person may keep on using the same term, but understand it differently at different times in their life. Okay, so having gone through that, let's start with some terminology. We'll start with what I've been saying all through these videos, LGBTQ+. L is for lesbian. This is a word used for a woman who is primarily or exclusively interested in other women for romance or sex. But not all women who are interested in other women use this term for themselves. G is for gay. This is a word used for people who are primarily or exclusively interested in their own gender for sex or romance. It's also sometimes used as an umbrella term for the whole LGBTQ+ community. But that can be quite rude, because people who don't call themselves gay but are still part of the LGBTQ+ community can feel excluded when other people refer to the gay community. B is for bisexual. This word is used for someone who is interested in more than one gender for sex or romance. Some bisexual people may have a preference for one gender over another. But even if there is a preference, the possibility for that attraction to more than one gender remains. Or a bisexual person may be in an exclusive relationship, but they're still bisexual because that possibility for attraction to more than one gender is still there. You might also have heard the term pansexual. Pansexual is used to describe someone who feels sexual or romantic attraction for a person regardless of their gender. This doesn't mean that they're attracted to all people equally. It just means that when they are attracted to someone, that person's gender isn't the deciding factor. Bisexuality and pansexuality can look pretty similar from the outside, but the labels someone chooses can have complex and powerful personal meanings for them. T is for trans. That can be short for transgender, but it's often used on its own. This word is an umbrella term used to describe anyone whose gender identity, their felt gender, doesn't match the sex they were assigned at birth based on their biological characteristics. This includes binary trans people, that's trans girls and women, trans boys and men, and non-binary people, people whose gender doesn't fit in the box of either man or woman. A non-binary person may feel that they're a combination of both genders, that they don't have any gender, or that they move between genders, or lots of other kinds of gender identities. Now, we will be talking more about gender and trans issues in the next video, but for now, another important word to know about is cis or cisgender. Cisgender refers to anyone whose gender identity does match the sex they were assigned at birth. So cis just means not trans. Cis and trans are terms that come from Latin. They mean on the same side of and the other side of, respectively. I will come back to why this term is so important in a little bit. For now, I is for intersex. Although we assign sex at birth based on biological characteristics, what that means is when the baby comes out, we look at it and say it's a boy or we say it's a girl. But some people's biology doesn't fit neatly into male or female. For someone who is intersex, this might mean that they have chromosomes that don't fall neatly into either XY male or XX female. It might mean they have hormones that don't fit well with what's expected for their assigned sex. Or it might mean they don't have typically male or female reproductive organs, genitalia or body shape. Q is for queer. Queer is an umbrella term used for any person or situation that is not heterosexual. Some people like the label queer because it doesn't require them to define themselves with any more detail, and because it's a term which focuses on what connects people within the LGBTQ+ community, rather than on what further defines them. Some people don't like the label queer because it has been used as an insult. However, just as queer has been used as an insult, so has every other word I've just defined. Q is also for questioning. If someone's not sure of their identity, but are taking time to think about it and figure it out. A is for asexual or for aromantic. Someone who is asexual is not interested in sex. They may or may not be interested in romance. Someone who is aromantic is not interested in a romantic relationship, but they may be still interested in sex and in friendships. The plus is for everybody else. This is to remind you that this is only an introduction, and there are many more terms and identities that are part of the LGBTQ+ community. I encourage you to do more research independently if this has interested you. Now, before we finish, another term to know about is heterosexual or straight. This is a word used for people who are primarily or exclusively interested in the opposite binary gender for sex or romance. For example, a man who's interested in women or a woman who's interested in men. Like the word cisgender, it may seem strange to you that I'm including this term in a talk about LGBTQ+ issues, but in fact, it's really important. People who aren't part of the LGBTQ+ community, straight, cis people, may never have needed to think about their identity in this way. As a result, when they're surprised into a conversation, they may think of themselves or actually describe themselves as normal. This is very hurtful. It positions anyone who's not straight and cis as abnormal, weird, or other. It contributes to the taboo of LGBTQ+ identities, which we discussed back in video 4. Using terms like straight and cis isn't an insult. It's just not letting one group have total, unquestioned rights to define what is normal and what is not. Now, coming back to the terminology for the LGBTQ+ community. It might be that you feel nervous about using terminology like this. Perhaps you worry about saying the wrong thing and offending someone. Perhaps you've heard these words used in a really harsh tone in other settings, and now a part of you worries that the words themselves are offensive. As a result of this, you might be inclined to hesitate or talk around the subject rather than using a term you're unsure about. But it's worth knowing, when you're uncomfortable with a word, the person listening to you often won't know if it's the word you're uncomfortable with or the people who the word refers to. The important things to remember are, whatever term you're using, be calm, kind, and straightforward. If you don't know the right term, just say directly what you do know. For example, rather than trying to figure out which term someone prefers, you could just say, Alice is in a same-sex relationship, or Jack has 2 mums. If the person you're with has or thinks they may have an LGBTQ+ identity, whether they're an adult or a child, it's often a good idea to follow their lead and use the same terms that they do. The final thing to remember is that everyone makes mistakes. What matters most is what you do next. Apologise briefly. Correct yourself, and don't let the mistake pull you away from other important parts of the conversation. So that's been it for our introduction to LGBTQ plus terminology. Coming up next, in video 7, we're going to be talking more about gender and thinking about how to talk about gender in a new way. I hope you will join me for that.